This January, my dad died, and that was really tough because he was a wonderful man and he was an amazing father. And one of the things that he did was he celebrated me unconditionally throughout my life. After he died, my family and I had the job of going through all the papers that he left behind. And one of the things that we discovered in all those papers was every one of our report cards. So there were all my report cards over the years, which really made me think about the label that I've often worn, which is problem child, as Brian just said. Maybe even problem adult for some people, but nonetheless, I definitely wore the label of problem child, and it was there in my report card. So I thought when I came here to do the TED Talks that what I would talk about was how I have come to accept all of who I am. So in thinking about being a problem child, one of the things that I thought was important was to get a little bit more perspective on what I was like as a child, and who better to ask than my mother, who many of you would actually know. And she's an amazingly diplomatic person who also loves me. This is what my mother said. She said that it was very easy to describe me as a child. I was a horror. She said that at age 2, I started to tantrum, and I basically was in a bad mood for the next 8 to 10 years. She said that at age 4, I refused to sit with my family any longer in public. I would sit at my own table in a restaurant, or I wouldn't go into the restaurant at all. At age 6, I entered a Kiwanis music festival playing piano. It was a duet performance, which was their first mistake. But it was a duet performance that I was doing, and evidently when I got up there with my partner, I decided to play a completely different song than we practiced. I have a theory that might be one of the people that I've impacted for life. Nonetheless, my mom said that if you kept me very, very busy and you strategically ignored me, that actually when I got my own way, I could sometimes be pleasant to be around. She also remembered that at around age 10, I went on a major revolt, and I tantrumed for days, evidently, because somebody had decided for me whether or not I could be a boy or a girl, and that seemed patently unfair to me. As far as I was concerned, I should get to make a choice like that, and actually in life I've discovered that you do get to make that choice, and I'm really happy that I decided to be a girl. Anyway, then we come to my report card. So here's just some comments taken off my report card. I kind of like that Janet has the power to bug people. I want to be clear, though, that one of the things that I'm doing today is I'm not talking about all children who have behaviors that we could see as problematic. Some children that have behaviors that we could see as problematic are children that are trying to tell us about what's going on in their lives. Some children that are seen as having problematic behaviors are children that are dealing with disability. Some children that would have problematic behaviors are children that are in some way severely emotionally or mentally disordered. However, I would believe that there's a whole lot of children like myself. We have the capacity, and we believe that we are capable of making our own choices. We really do. We have the capacity to do what you want us to do. We don't want to do it. The problem is that we cannot be what we have not yet become because we're still children. We're doing the best we can to resolve our needs. So our solutions, if you want to put it that way, are not very graceful. In fact, they probably create quite a bit of chaos. In fact, I would believe that, whoops, I missed one there. Back one? I'm missing one. Oh well, I'll go with it anyway. You can see that I've been clearly defined by Brian. He didn't miss the chance. Janet White, problem child. I would tell you that I've come out of the closet, but actually I wouldn't go into it, so we're okay. So as a problem child, I believe that one of the things that happens is that we have a higher degree than most to announce who we are and to make our way in the world. In fact, if you think about the Robert Frost poem that speaks about the road less traveled, we didn't take the road less traveled. We're bushwhacking. We are out there creating our own path. That's of great importance to us. So as I've gone on in life, how have I taken the reality that for many people throughout my life, they've had a great deal of difficulty or have struggled with the way that I choose to carve my path. And one of the things that has been great help to me is that as a therapist, I've really worked with a lot of children that I would see as defined as problem children. And one of the things that I noticed is that those children weren't happy. And neither was I, according to my mom. And we're not happy. We're not trying to be disruptive to the rest of you. We're simply trying to carve our own path. And in that bushwhacking, you can see that there is a whole lot of chaos that can occur and a whole lot of sideswiping. So be very aware of how that sideswiping might hit the siblings of children like myself. Anyway, as I went on in life and I thought about this, I realized that one of the things that I believe is that people strive to create solutions, not problems. It made no sense to me that we were out there striving to create problems. So it made no sense to me that as a child what I would have been doing was striving to be a problem. And as I thought about that, and as I thought about all the things that I'd done as a child, I could see that really what I'd done was worked very hard to try and solve my needs. If you think about the earlier slide, you can see that one of the things I wanted to do was to be in control. What I've now done in my life is I've created different solutions. So this is my mother again. And you can see that one of the things that I do is I'm in control of my work life. 90% of my day-to-day activities I get to decide on. I also wanted to be heard. Kind of interesting that I'm standing up being listened to right now. As a university instructor, I get heard a lot. As a therapist, I get heard. As a clinical supervisor, I get heard. That was important to me, and you can see that some of the ways I've solved that are ways that are actually working for both me and for other people. I also recognize that in personal relationships, I need to be really aware of the impact that I can sometimes have on others, because in my efforts to do what's important to me, I sometimes don't realize what's happening with others. So I've worked very hard to have relationships in which there's a lot of checking in with each other, so that I can make sure that there's always a constant feedback coming back to me about how I'm impacting those people around me. As well, I've also created a primary relationship in which we are very similar. So what we've learned how to do is to walk our own paths and to do it side by side. So I can still carve out that path that's important to me. The best way to invite people to see themselves as solution creators, I believe, is to start with right from the very beginning, which means that we need to learn how to celebrate all that we did as children, all that we've done throughout our lives in order to solve our needs. We've always done our best. So when you think about it, here's a whole list of things that you can start to celebrate about a problem child. In fact, when I look at this list, I think of all the strengths that I have and that got me to here. So really, I am who I am today because of who I was. Thank you.